Hey guys, this is High Priestess Demari. I hope you're doing well. So, just doing another quick message before the weather turns because it's supposed to rain later today. So, I don't want to tempt fate by being out here too long. But yeah, something I wanted to mention before because some of you guys have been asking me about this. So yeah, I did mention that I wanted to go into the subject of demonology more because I think it's important that you guys are equipped so you know these energies, so you can recognize them. And so you have some kind of basis to work from in terms of knowing how to avoid these energies and knowing where a lot of this that is coming through and pervading through the collective is actually stemming from. So I don't know if many of you have been following what's going on in the UK with this whole coronation thing that just took place. That was highly significant. For us Brits, there is a lot of divide on the issue, as you can imagine. Some people don't want a monarchy at all. Some people like the whole patriotic, nationalistic vibe that it brings. So there is a bit of divide on the subject. But there's not many people that are approaching it from a spiritual connotation, right? But this was very, very, very significant, very symbolic. It was very occult in nature. I didn't watch the coronation because, especially live, because I wasn't willing to consent my energy to the ritual, because that's what it was, a ritual, right? And so I chose to not watch it. I chose not to pledge my allegiance to the king as requested by the BBC. You might think that sounds crazy, but no, they literally wrote an article about that they were asking the public to pledge their allegiance, and there was going to be like a whole recital during the ceremony. So again, very, very questionable, very symbolic, okay, and very telling. These are things, they made significant changes as far as I'm aware, just on the bits of information that I have and the images I've seen from the coronation, that this whole ritual was different to the Queen's, okay? And there's a very strong reason for that. And that's because the Queen was in place to prepare the world for what's coming. She plays a more important role than I'll have you believe, okay? Oh, the sun's back out, hello. Yes, she played a more of an important role than they would have you believe. The monarchy does in general, okay? Behind the scenes. And she was to prep the stage for what's coming. And as I mentioned to you before, there has been an exchange of power, right? There's been an exchange of power between hands in terms of who's where and who's controlling and running what, okay? And so this whole coronation was very symbolic. After all of the rituals we've seen with the Olympic Games opening, the Commonwealth ceremony, all these different events, okay, even certain festivals that acted as blood rituals, okay? There's, different concerts of different musicians and stuff like that. All of that is small scale compared to what just happened. Now, even people I know who are not tapped in at all even said, this seems a bit culty, doesn't it? Yes, it is. It's exactly that, right? So a lot of people had no idea what they were signing up for by watching that, especially live, okay, that they were participating in an occult ritual. It was fully an occult ritual, okay? There was nothing Christian about it. It's just the guise that they like to use, okay? That's what Luciferians do. They usually operate under the guise of a religion, especially Christianity, because they invert those principles, right? It's all about the inversion and perversion of, divine decree and, how we are meant to truly operate on this 3D plane, right? They invert everything and pervert it and twist it. So there's that. So this man has actually been prepped his whole life for this moment because he is in a seat of power. And the position he has been bestowed, okay, is one that is going to play host to the devil himself. And you may think, wow, Demari, that's extreme, And you may think that that's crazy. And you may think that, it's bold to say that. But it's true, okay? And there's others that believe this as well. There's even people, theologians that, and researchers that have done extensive amount of research into this. Even on a numerological level, when they looked at his name and deconstructing his name and all of these things, right? So I found that very interesting as well. But no, he is playing host to Lu himself, okay? Because he is now risen so that he can take full control of this 3D paradigm. That's why now they're trying to impose stricter laws when it comes to freedom of speech, the right to protest in the UK, especially leading up to this coronation. That never happened before until now, because they don't want there to be any opposition. He's already faced heavy opposition from crowds in the UK, and so they want to curb that, nip that in the bud. They don't want anyone to be able to express their disdain or their disagreement, okay, with what they're trying to impose. So there is that, okay. So there is definitely a power grab at play and a desire to curb any kind of opposition to this new structure that they're implementing, okay. So it is starting, of course, in certain key locations, especially here, you know, like it's nothing new in terms of, you know, the government and the police force trying to impose more and more restrictions on our freedoms, and especially when it comes to the rights of freedom of speech and things of that nature. You know, it's becoming very, very draconian in a lot of ways, but now it's reached a whole nother level because of this ceremony, because of who has risen essentially to claim their seat, to claim the throne, okay? And so if Blue is now here reigning the 3D paradigm on a full-time basis, he's in the seat of power in the hellscape, in the infernal plane. Now that's something I'm going to discuss in another video, because there's again a lot to dissect there. I'm also aware that, you know, I am in a public place and I have to be very careful with what I say, because already what I'm saying is quite controversial. But it's true, right? And yeah, that's why there are people that are opposing this this reign of power, because of the larger implications. There's a lot of things that are changing all of a sudden, very quickly, very dramatically. So it's like they're trying to make sure everything's in place beforehand, before, you know, they really start unveiling certain things, okay, certain changes that have been implemented, because they're doing it behind the scenes regardless, right? But now they want to start publicly exposing, you know, what kind of powers they're going to have moving forward, legally. And that's the thing, because a lot of what they are now doing legally, they were already doing illegally, especially when it comes to surveillance, wiretapping, when it comes to the stalking and things like that, you know, targeting individuals. Absolutely, that's been going on for some time now, especially people who they deem a threat in some shape or form, i.e. people that have damning information, so people that may be in, you know, positions of authority, who have some kind of legal standing or access to confidential information, top secret information, things of that nature. People who may be very gifted, tapped in, that are able to pull information, okay, or that have been exposed to certain things. Anyone that may have evidence that's damning for whatever reason. So yeah, but they want to essentially give themselves more powers to do this legally, okay? So that is an issue, and the fact that they're already trying to curb people's right to, you know, essentially be able to use their voice and have the right to actually protest what they don't agree with, that is a huge problem, because it's reached the point where even trade unions, you know, have been protesting, you know, especially like with the whole train strikes. We had junior doctors and nurses going on strike. Do you know how bad it has to be when literally, you know, healthcare professionals are on strike for weeks because of the conditions, right? So that's where we're at. It's just the UK has become so docile, you know, so apathetic and miserable and just, you know, sort of lackluster when it comes to dealing with these issues, that they're not willing to go to war like France has, for example, over these social issues. And that's a big problem. We've become too docile, we've become too complacent, you know, and that needs to change. It does. I'm not inciting violence or anything like that. I don't think violence is ever a good idea. It doesn't really solve it in the end, but taking a stand, absolutely, that does need to happen. People need to use their voices more, because otherwise what's the alternative? You know, we go along with this new regime where they're implementing all of these sustainable developmental programs like the UN Agenda 21, you know, as well as, like I say, these crackdowns on protesting, on, you know, people's right to freedom of speech, not allowing people the right to have the basic means to have a normal, you know, life, So curbing people's rights, in terms of workers' rights, curbing people's rights to, living in affordable housing, things of that nature, while the economy is just absolutely tanking. I mean, there's a lot of issues. It's not even funny, but I just feel like all of this has been done methodically, step by step, and intentionally in order to implement the new structure, to implement the new way of living. So none of it is a coincidence in terms of the timing. And I do feel like people really do need to start thinking outside the box and see it for what it is, okay? Because, I say thinking outside of the box being the 3D paradigm, okay? The black box of Saturn. And now its ruler has risen to the surface to take full control. This is total dominion over the 3D plane. And that's why the divine is coming through strongly to equip divine beings with the knowledge, with the know-how, with the resources, with the insight, with the wisdom to be able to navigate these times and to be able to prep future generations with what's to come, okay? So it's up to us to lay the foundations, to do the groundwork and to prepare, our families, to prepare future generations for the landscape they're now going to be navigating, because our world has changed so much. I still have other things I need to go into in terms of how AI has been a huge, proponent in that. There's so much I need to talk about, but I can't cram it all in one video. So I'm going to leave this there for now, but that's just something I wanted to touch on. So yeah, it's here, it's happening right now. And now it's just a case of not trying to stop the inevitable. It's about being prepared and knowing how to navigate around it so that even when they try to carry out certain nefarious plots, it's essentially destined to fail, because it is, there's a lot of things that are not going to plan as they envisioned it. There's been a lot of setbacks. And so I feel like it's given us time to prepare, to become knowledgeable, to be insightful, to have the wisdom and awareness so that we are equipped and we can do what we need to do. To not just, fight the good fight, but also, like I said, to lay that basis for the generations to come, because, the future leaders of this world are being birthed. And so we need to ensure that they have the insights that they need, in order to be able to push back against the regime, essentially. Because this is a global regime. This is not, statewide, or, this has got nothing to do with international borders or anything like that. That's why there has been this big push on a global scale to create collapse on all levels, to create disarray, conflict, chaos, okay? To cause anarchy, to cause disillusionment more than anything, okay? To make people so apathetic and nihilistic that they just give up, okay, and accept whatever is imposed. And the pandemic was a big part of that, okay? That was a big part of that plan to create not just a rift in terms of, not just in terms of the community, right? And create, sort of divide and fractions and things like that. It was more than that. It was to literally create like a break in people's consciousness, essentially. Because once you do that, people are able, it's easier to control and manipulate people that way, right? And so that's what's happened. That's why we're seeing people, sort of have these manic episodes and appear as if they're having some kind of, some kind of psychological break, or like a psychotic break or something of that nature. And it's because of that, that's a big part of it. And you couple in, like I said, the socioeconomic factors on top of it. You couple in, substance abuse, alcoholism, health issues, lack of support, lack of love, compassion, understanding. I mean, it's a recipe for disaster. So this is unfortunately what we're witnessing, you know, especially, you know, when I look at what's happening in the States, it's heartbreaking, you know. So for those of you who are statewide, you know, I keep you guys in my thoughts a lot, because I am really concerned with what I'm witnessing, you know, just from online. You know, obviously I'm not there, but from what I've been witnessing online, what's been taking place there, it's really heartbreaking to see. You know, and how people are doing some really horrific things to each other. It's happening here as well and everywhere, but it's certainly, you know, pronounced in the US, you know, on all levels. So you guys have my you know, sympathy there, my empathy. But the important thing is to not give up, okay? There is light at the end of the tunnel. There is always a reason to keep going, right? There's always a reason to get up and smile every day, because there is a lot of positive things in the world. There are good people in the world doing good things. There are people doing things to help others, to create a change. There are people that are using their voice. There are people even in those political and social economic circles, you know, that are trying to invoke some kind of change, that are trying to bring certain issues to light and bring it to the public domain so it can be changed, so it can be addressed. You know, so these people that are doing that work, that are putting themselves on the front lines, we need to support them, okay? Because we need to show that people like that, whistleblowers, do have support from the public. And so that'll encourage more people to step forward as well, okay? So it's up to us. It's up to us. It doesn't matter where you think you sit on the hierarchy. Everyone has a voice, and everyone should be using it to invoke some kind of positive change. So I'm going to leave it there, because this is getting long, but that's just some insights I'm sharing at the moment. So I hope that helps, and I hope that kind of gives people an idea of where I feel like this is kind of heading, just based on the insights I've received, the research I've been doing myself, and also what I'm witnessing in real time, with a lot that's been coming out that's very damning. And I feel like just the pushback that's happening with this whole, you know, new reign that's about to take place, and how people feel about the British monarchy at this time, it's really symbolic of the fracture that's taking place within the collective, you know, those that are still very much you know, boxed in, and those who have broken free, okay? So it's gonna get messy, but I'm telling you, the divine is with us. They really are. And they are constantly giving signs, constantly showing that there's always a better way, and that if we have the courage to do what we need to do, i.e. to use our voices, to not consent to things that we don't want to consent to, that we know is in our heart and our spirit is wrong, things will change, because the future is already here. And like I said in previous readings, I'm telling you, the future generation of leaders that's coming into this 3D plane, unreal. So it's up to us to pave the way for them, you know, so they have a good example to you know, essentially go up around, you know. So we need to be that example. So anyway, I'm wishing you guys all the best. I'm sending you all my love. Stay safe, be smart, okay? And I'll speak to you guys soon. Bye.